Hi friends, welcome to A Lovely Yarn podcast. My name is Amber, and for those of you who watch me every week, you're probably wondering, why is the background different? I'm actually in the living room. It is Sunday, September 15th. I am home alone, which does not happen very often. So I am taking advantage of the quiet house, and also I've been having some back, shoulder, and neck problems. So it's feeling much more comfortable for me to sit on the couch rather than sitting on the hard floor, which is what I normally do when I film in our bedroom. So I'm sitting on the nice, soft, comfy couch. I have this beautiful crazy quilt behind me. This is actually from it's like an heirloom that's been passed down through my family from my father's side. So this thing is absolutely huge. I have it doubled over. And it's so heavy, and it's like a weighted blanket, really, is what it feels like. Made way before weighted blankets were even a thing. But yeah, I love it. It has various, I don't know if you can see up here. It says Elmer, Dale, and there's like embroidery with different names. There's initials here. There's some dates. I think they might be birth dates. I'm not really sure. Love one another is stitched in here. Some, yeah, just, what is that? Thelma? That's Thelma. Yeah, so people that I don't even know because they lived way before I did, but I love this quilt. Absolutely love it. It's one of the treasures that I have. So I am filming today because I have a lot to talk about. It feels slightly overwhelming. So it is, like I said, it's Sunday the 15th. We've been home for a week, but prior to that, we went to Acadia National Park in Maine, and that's where we like to go when we vacation if we can. It's beautiful there. We like to hike, and it's just like the perfect combination of coastline. It's mostly rocky coastline, at least in that area, and mountains. Like, you literally have both things at the same time. We just love it. It was our last vacation as a family of the four of us. Sergey, he's our oldest. He's going to be 28 at the end of this month. So he's married on his own, doing his own thing. And then our middle son, Ian, is getting married next year. So it was the last vacation for him to go with us before we got married, or before he gets married. So anyway, we had a wonderful time. Depending on the length of this episode, I may edit some footage in. I did take a lot of video while we were there. I might tag it on to the end of this in case anyone's interested. But yeah, it'll just depend on how long I talk because I do have a lot to show you. So we have a good solid 15 to 16 hour drive one way. So I had a lot of time to do some knitting, and usually when I go on a car trip, I start a new project, something new and exciting. I decided this time to work on my WIPS. I think my last regular episode, I showed you guys all of the WIPS that I've had and that I'm really wanting to get done. So I took a bunch of those with me, and I feel good about where I am with them. I'm really starting to finish those up, which is going to be great. But I also knit two completely unexpected knits. I think when I did my last episode, I said to you guys, I'm not starting anything else until I get my WIPs finished, or at least some of them. Well, was it maybe a week? Within that same week, I was casting on two new projects, and I'll explain to you why when we get to that. So first thing I want to start with is this beautiful sweater. I absolutely love this sweater. Let me get my notes for it, just in case. I've kind of talked about this in various other episodes. I've been working on this for a while, so I have talked about it multiple times. So I'm not going to kind of stay in that place of talking incessantly about it, but I want to show you guys the finished project. It's already blocked and everything. I blocked it yesterday. This is made with Purl Soho good wool. This was my first time using this. this yarn and I absolutely love it. I will definitely be buying this again. It is so, it's like, it feels like wool, but it's not itchy. At least it's not to me. And I loved how it worked up. Look at the color work. It's just so beautiful. So the red color is called, oh boy, here, let me look. Is it Barn Door? It is Barn Door. And then this contrast color is called Pink Salt. It's like a very light pink color. I don't know if you can really tell. When I blocked this, I would say maybe this bled a tiny little bit. The water was just a little bit murky, a little bit of a reddish tint. I wasn't worried about it because this contrast color was already like a light pink color, so I wasn't worried about if this would have been like plain white. Like, I don't know, maybe if you were blocking this red yarn with something that's plain white, you would have some bleeding, but I don't think that happened. But again, this contrast color started out a pink color already, so it would be really hard for me to tell. What size did I knit in this? The 4th size, I think. Oh yeah, so I started the 4th size, but then partway through the yoke, I realized I actually needed to knit the 3rd size. So I did some random decreasing and finagling of stitches, and then I finished the rest of the sweater off in the 3rd size. So anything else? I did the sleeves differently because I kind of wanted that little tiny feminine looking puff sleeve at the bottom, or the bell sleeve, but it's nothing like a bell sleeve. But actually this sleeve had more decreases worked into it, but I only decreased down to a certain point, and then I stopped decreasing and I knit straight, so that, and then I did a quick increase or decrease here around the sleeve of I think 8 to 10 stitches to give this little puff here, and then I started the ribbing, and I really like the look of that. I think it just looks cute and feminine. I love this yoke. I love this pattern. I would knit it again. I'm actually thinking about, so I have yarn. I had started the Birkin sweater by Caitlin Hunter 2 falls ago, I think it was now, and it ended up being a nightmare knit. It's probably my least favorite knit I've ever done because the yoke of it, even though I have the updated pattern, because I knew there were issues with the first pattern, so I waited. She updated the pattern and put increases in the yoke. But the yoke literally was a funnel on me. Like, it looked misshapen. And I think, and even as I was knitting it, I was like, trust the pattern, trust the pattern, trust the pattern. But at the same time now I realize I should have trusted my knitting intuition, and I should have stopped the color work. The yoke was just too deep, I think is why. And maybe the neck's a little bit weird. I don't know. It just fit horribly. I ended up having, I got through the yoke the whole way and partway through the body, and I realized I have to rip this out because I'm never going to wear it. And I was really bummed because that is a beautiful yoke. Like, the look of it, the motif is beautiful. And I had ordered Barrett Wool Company, her kit. Susan B. Anderson had put together a kit for the Birkin, and it was, the colors were amazing. If I can find a picture, I'll put it in here of mine that I tried on. I don't know that you'll be able to tell that it didn't fit me well, but I ripped that out, and I know, I have since learned that so many people have had a problem with that pattern, doing like this funnel neck thing. So I painstakingly pulled that whole yoke out, every piece of yarn, and it was color work, and some of the rows were like 3 color work. But I saved all the yarn, and I have it in a bag, and I thought, well, I'm gonna restart this, and I'm going to do a lot of math and figure out how to make this work because I love that motif. But when I finished knitting this, I actually started thinking, I think I could do this and use those different colored yarns that I have from the Birkin and just get a really beautiful colored yoke, like all different colors. So I may do that. I may play around with that. Because I honestly, I had such a horrible experience ripping out that yoke. I don't know that I want to mess around. It was extremely disappointing, but I know that I'm not alone. There have been so many people that have had a problem with that particular pattern. So anyway, it is done. Why don't I stick it on real quick and you can see how the yoke lays on me. It fits me so well. Like I said, I love this yarn. I will definitely knit with this yarn again. So let me get, hold on, let me, okay. So you can see it's like hits me, I would say that's the top of my hip right there. And it's just, it's perfect. It is perfect. I love it. I love it so much. It'll definitely be a favorite. I might have a little bit of itch. It's like sometimes when you put on a wool sweater, you have a little bit of itch just when you first put it on, and then your skin warms the fibers, and then you don't feel it anymore. And I think that's kind of how I am with this. This is not a wool that I would be feeling like it was too itchy. It's definitely comfortable for me. And it's a DK weight, I think, right? It says it's 100% Andean Highland wool, but I think it is listed as a DK weight yarn. Yeah, 383 yards per 100 grams, so that would make sense. But it feels like a really nice weight too. It doesn't feel like overly hot, so that's also good. So let me get readjusted here. And yeah, super happy. I'm just gonna leave it on because we have the air conditioner on because it's in the 80s today, so this is actually feeling pretty good. Let me adjust my camera. Is that good? Okay, that's better. All right, so this is my first finished object. And I actually finished this. This was one of the projects I took with me to Maine, and I finished this in the car on the way. Oh, and I should say I did a tubular bind off on the sleeves. Did I do that on the bottom here? Yes. So all of my edges are done with the tubular bind off, which gives that really nice rolled look that I really like. Okay, then I'm going to show you another WIP that I actually knit before this one, and I knit this one super fast because it was a test knit, and it is it's for Tammy Gore of Narrow Path Designs. It's called the Sunset Harbor Cowl. She put a post up on Instagram looking for test knitters, and I just love Tammy's designs. I've knit several of them, and I've test knit for her before, and it was like a quick turnaround to kind of test knit, but it was also a cowl, so I knew that I would be able to get that done, and it was also color work, so I love color work, so I went for it. And let me show you mine. I did post. There's like a major color theme going on here, isn't there? So this is knit in yarn that I have never knit with before. It's the, let me see here, Sirdar Haworth Tweed. And I got this off of Wool & Company. It is actually, it's funny because it feels like it's a 100% wool yarn, but it's actually has, what does it have in it? Gosh, where did it? I don't have that written down. I think it has, so it has wool in it, but then I think it also has some acrylic in it, which I could not tell that at all. It has some sort of not natural, like an unnatural fiber in it. But you can see I chose this pink color for my main color, and that is called Yorkshire Stone. And then the contrast color is like a orangey red, and that is called Ryedale Rust. And again, I must really be liking these pinks and orangey reds or rusty reds because look at that. So the fun thing about this is that, oh, okay, so wait, let me give you more details. This yarn comes in 50-gram balls, 180 yards per 50 grams, and I used 79 grams of the main color, the pink color, and which is like 256 yards, and I used 23 grams of the contrast color. So I actually have some of this left over. I think I have 1 and almost a half of the pink, and then I have do I have a whole ball of the red left and then some? Because I always order a little bit more than what I think, especially when I'm test knitting, and especially when I'm test knitting on a deadline, because I want to make sure I have enough yarn. So what I plan on doing is knitting a pair of colorwork mittens to go with this, just to kind of match. And I haven't picked out a pattern yet. I have a couple of saved on my Ravelry favorites, but I don't remember the names of any of them right now. I'll talk about them in the future if I actually cast them on. But this is done with a provisional cast on, and then you knit in the round. So you knit a tube. You're knitting a tube, a giant tube, until you get to the other end, and then you do like you graft the two ends together. Now, I have a note here. It's been a while because I actually finished this on August 21st, so it's been a while since I worked on this. But I wrote here in my notebook, the grafting at the end was a little tricky at first. The video and the pattern was super helpful. The video used 4 DPNs, 2 on each end being grafted. I just used 1 circular needle per end. Felt a little awkward at first, but I soon got into a rhythm. So if you're not knitting this, that may not make any sense to you, but I just thought I want to tell you guys that, because if you decide to knit it and you watch the video at the end, or when you're trying to graft this together, you don't have to use the DPNs. You can use 2 circular needles. So, oh, and another thing. Okay, well, let me put this on. I'm going to have that's one way to wear it, right? Okay. Oh, look, like this is the perfect, look at that. This is the perfect, like, tightness. I knit this to pattern too. Oh, another thing, I did not get gauge. This was supposed to be a DK weight yarn, but I honestly think it's more of a worsted weight, and I could not get gauge. I went way down on my needles. I think the pattern called for a size 6 or 7 needle, and I went down to a 3 or 4 and still could not get gauge. So I reached out to Tammy and I told her what was going on, and I was like, is gauge super important? And she said no, as long as you have enough yarn, which I knew I'd have enough yarn. So but I still feel like I did, like, this main part here was supposed to be 6 inches, and I followed the pattern, so it still worked out, and it is the perfect amount of tightness, because I don't like cowls that are like hanging down here and they're not providing any warmth. I wear them for warmth, not for like fashion, so I like it to keep me warm. So perfect tightness around my neck, and this yarn is, it has a little bit of itch, but not much at all. Nothing that bothers me. I'm not sensitive though, so that is one thing. Like, my daughter couldn't wear this. She's extremely sensitive to wool. But yeah, look how pretty that is. It's such a pretty tweed yarn. Yeah, so I knit that one, and I knit this in about 2 weeks, just because I was working on some other things too. So then the next thing that I want to talk about is a pair of socks that I casted on, and I casted these on, and I was knitting feverishly on them. I finished these up in Maine as well, because these are a pair of Purl socks that I'm sending out to someone. And so after my last episode, I found out about something that was going on in the life of one of my friends, so I wanted to send a pair of prayer socks, which is basically, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's kind of like the intention of them are, as I knit, I'm thinking about and praying for that person and what they're going through. So this particular person's favorite color is like a piney green. This is showing more teal-like. See, I think the way the sun's coming in the window, it's showing more teal, but it's actually more of a forest green. And I got this yarn from Dark Lake Fiber, and it's called Pine. And then the contrast was just, I don't even know where it came from. It was from some, I don't know. It was in with all of my small minis. So I don't know what it is, what it's called, or who made it, but this is the Hermione's Everyday Socks. And I love this pattern. I've knit this pattern a lot. It's just a really cozy pattern. So I don't have a lot to say about these. I followed the pattern for these, except I did my heel a little bit differently. I think the pattern for that heel is like a, oh, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. I just did a slip stitch heel, which is what I do most of my heels. So yeah, these are done. I blocked them so they smell nice, smell like wool wash, and I will be mailing these out. Okay. Oh, I got 2 more finished objects. See, these are both socks that I had talked about on my last episode that needed done. And again, I finished these while in Maine, and I had one sock completely done, so I just had to finish the second sock. So those are both done now. And this is a Drops Fabel yarn that I used, and then this is the contrast color is Knit Picks Stroll in Sapphire blue, I think. I link everything down below that you need to know. So you can look down below in the description video, or the description box of this video, and you'll see the details for like the yarn and the pattern and everything. But yeah, this is a Drops Fabel, the main color, and then a Knit Picks Stroll contrast. And these I'm putting back in my drawer of socks that I'm going to eventually gift to people. I know who I'm giving these to, but I'm not going to say yet. So I don't want to announce that on here. It's too public then. Yeah, so I'm done with these. And then I finished these as well. And I actually had, I think I only was like to this point on the first one on these socks. And then these are also now, these also became a pair of prayer socks because for the rest of this and then this whole sock, I was thinking and praying for another person. And I really feel like I need to send these to that person. So these have become prayer socks. That's not what they were intended to be, but that's what they have become. And this is another Drops Fabel, the main color, and then this contrast color is just a plain purple, and I think it might be Flower Hill Fleeces, but I can't remember for sure because it wasn't marked. It was just in with my minis. So I'm going to mail out these this week as well. So I have 2 pairs of socks to be mailed out, and then this other pair here is going to go in my drawer of gift knits. Do I have any other? I don't think I have any other finished objects. No, I don't. Okay, so let's talk about my WIPS that I have. Okay, so where is it? Is this it? Yes, okay. This is my summer scarf by the Italian Knitter. That's the name of the pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I think I have, why don't I just show you a picture of it? Oh, it's called an Italian summer scarf. Okay. So it's kind of very similar to the Sophie scarf, only it's got eyelets throughout it. And I'm knitting this with Quince & Co. Willet in the color, oh my gosh, I always forget because I threw the tags away for some strange reason, and I actually had quite a bit of yarn left. It's, oh, what is the name? Willet in a color that Hauser, H-A-U-S-E-R, that's right. So I'm pretty sure this is a just cotton yarn. I think it's 100% cotton. It's a little shiny, so maybe it's mercerized. But let me show you what I have done. So I'm actually on the decreasing part of it now. I love this color. I actually knit my rift in this color probably 4, maybe 5 years ago now. I don't even remember. But you can see, so you just increase, and then you start your decreasing. And the way I did that is I had 2 balls of this. I don't know why I had 2 balls that were like, they were the same exact weight, because now that I'm thinking about it, I weighed them out on my little scale because I figured I'll weigh and see how much I have of each ball, and then I'll do an equal amount of yardage for the increases, and then I'll start decreasing and do the same amount of yardage. So that should work out and use like almost all of my yarn up. And both balls ended up weighing the same. And I don't know if I have that written down or not. I don't know if I wrote anything down for this. I'm feeling like I didn't. I don't remember doing that. But this also has been on the needles for quite a while. So it's possible it's in here and I just don't remember, but no, I'm not going to waste time looking. Anyway, I used up my first ball, which was for the increasing section, and now I am working on the decreasing section, and I have my second ball, and this is a very easy pattern. It's completely memorizable and very easy to read your knitting so that you don't, you're not questioning, oh, shoot. Like I remember with the Sophie scarf, I think you had to increase and then decrease every 8th round. But because there's that eyelet section in here, it's easy to read when you get to the next place where you have to increase or decrease if you're, on the opposite side of the pattern. So I have this beautiful little ceramic stitch marker by Holland Hoof Farm. They have really pretty ceramic buttons and stitch markers and other ceramic things. And they also carry wooden buttons as well. So yeah, so this is over halfway done now. And it's a beautiful color. I love this color so much. Nice fall color. This was supposed to be, I think I must have started this in the early spring because it was intended to be a spring scarf. So now it's going to be a fall scarf because I'm really working on this. I'm really focusing on this. So it's gonna be done this fall. It's gonna be done soon. Like within the next couple of weeks, hopefully before I podcast next. So let's put that away. It feels so good to be working on projects that I've been putting off and to get them done. I'm down to just a couple of projects left that need worked on. Okay, and then I have this pair of socks. This is Knit Picks Hawthorn in a color that I have no clue because I lost the band. These have been a work in progress for multiple years. Oh, and this toe, I'm just doing a contrast toe because I don't know that I didn't know if I'd have enough yarn to do 2 socks. I think I might, well, these are going to go back in my drawer too as a gift knit in the future. And I have an idea also for who I'm going to give these to, but again, not going to say it on here because I don't know if it's completely safe to. But yeah, I mean, nothing exciting about this, just a plain vanilla sock. And this is where I am on the second one. I'm working my way down the foot now, so it won't be long before these are done as well. So yeah, it feels good. And I think I'm also gonna have to take the sweater off because I'm starting to get slightly overheated. So let me pause, take this off, and I need to grab another project and I will be back real quick. I just realized that I never told you the name of this pattern. It's the Sonder pullover Sonder, maybe it's just Sonder by the Petite Knitter. And hopefully when I am editing this video, I will remember to put that on the screen so you guys can see the name as I'm actually talking about it. I went right into the yarn instead of what the pattern was called. Okay, so this was another project I also took with me to work on, and I did work on it on the way home a bit after I finished those purple socks. And this is the Mariana sweater by Fiber Folk Studio. Here it is. I ripped a bunch of it out. So I had tried it on before we left for Maine, and I felt like, I felt like I'd made the sweater a little too long, and then when I had done the binding off for the bottom hem, I must have been feeling lazy, and instead of doing the tubular bind off, which is beautiful but also very stretchy and comfortable feeling when you're wearing it, I just did a long, no, not a long tail. I did a stretchy cast off, but I forget the name of it. I don't know what the name of it is, but it was not stretchy enough. So when I tried it on, it felt tight. It felt like the fibers had a lot of tension on them. And even though it didn't hug my body, I still didn't like the feeling of that tension on the fibers. when I was taking it on and off. So I ended up ripping it out on the way home. That was what I did. That's how far I got with this on the way home. I started to work on this sleeve, and I'm actually gonna rip this sleeve out as well. I started working on the sleeve, and then I was like, I do not like the way that fit me along the bottom hem, and it was like this internal battle. Should I rip it out? Should I just leave it and let it be good enough? And then I was like, no, that's stupid. You've been knitting a long time now, and you should know better, Amber, and you have as a knitter, you have the opportunity and the ability to make custom clothing for yourself. So instead of just rushing through this sweater to get it done, so that, basically so I can say, oh good, it's done, you need to take your time and you need to make it the way that you really feel comfortable wearing it. And so I was like, okay, inner dialogue. So I stopped working on the sleeve and I put a lifeline in, and I just pulled out part of the ribbing because I thought I'm just going to do a different bind off. And then I was like, no, actually, this was too long. I remember when I tried it on, I remember thinking, this is a little bit longer than I wish I would have knit it. So then I put another lifeline on in like right up above where I had the ribbing, and I ripped back to there. So that's what I did, and I'm very happy with that decision. I'm going to start the ribbing right away. So I probably pulled out 4 rounds of stockinette in addition to all of the ribbing that I had for the bottom hem. So I'm just going to start the ribbing now, and I'm not going to do it I'm not going to do the band as long as it was originally. Then this sleeve, I don't believe, and I probably have this written in my book, I don't believe I did any decreases on this sleeve, because I remember thinking I want to make this a balloon sleeve sweater. But now I've changed my mind about that, so I'm actually going to rip out the sleeve and do some decreases and do it more like the Saunders sweater. Like do some decreases, but not as many as the pattern calls for, and then just do a quick decrease down here so you get that little bit of puckering. And that's how I'm going to do this one as well. So I have to rip this out still. There's not that much left to do on this sweater. I mean, here's the front. It's very doable. It's not a big deal. It's going to be fine. I'm going to be happier with it this way. I just know it. And you guys are really encouraging, because every time I've talked about this sweater, I've talked about how I've been second guessing my decision to put a warm tone with a cool tone gray. And some of you have said, yeah, maybe not the best color choice, but the majority of you guys have said, no, it looks good. And it is. It's gonna look great. It is. And let's be honest, pretty much anything goes in clothing. And if I like it, which I think I like it. I think my hang up was that I was like, you shouldn't mix cool and warm colors like that. Like this, and then bam, all this coolness. But it looks beautiful. So I'm going to go with it. Yeah. I mean, look at that. And I did modify this color work chart because I did not make the yoke near as deep as the pattern. But it's a beautiful chart. Like I just knew after I was having flashbacks to the Birkin sweater, and I was like, no, if I make that yoke as deep as the chart is showing, I'm going to have another funnel neck. And I think it's because my gauge must have been a little bit bigger than what the pattern called for. Again, I've had this on the needles for so long that I can't remember all the details, and I'm pretty sure that before. It might have been before I even started writing stuff in my knitting journal. This knitting journal is amazing to have because I can look back and see these things. Yeah, I don't think I have any notes for this sweater. Nope, not seeing any. Okay, so that's what I'm doing with this one. But again, not much left to do on that. It is I think that's a worsted weight yarn. So once I get like the sleeve ripped out and start actually knitting on it all again, it's going to go really fast because it's just knitting in the round and then the ribbing. So, okay, the last project that I want to talk about is, I've talked about this. I talked about this one in my last episode, my WIP episode. The name of the pattern is escaping my mind right now. Let me look and see. The Rusa. The Rusa sweater by Jessica McDonald. Here's a picture of it. That's what it's supposed to look like. This was originally a test knit that I did when she was testing this pattern, and I ordered piece fleece yarn. I forget what this main color is. Let's see here if I might have, sorry. I have to look at the top of my head there. Lauren's Coral, it is no longer, that was a discontinued color. And then Shelter, Storm Cloud is the dark gray, and then I have some Spud and Chloe sweater yarn, just in like a off-white that I'm using. So those are the three colors I'm using for this sweater. Okay, so here's the deal. This sweater, I don't know what happened. I honestly don't know what happened. I definitely would have swatched for this because I was a test knit. Something happened. The piece fleece is a really, I would say, I mean, it's worsted, but it's like a heavy worsted. And this thing turned out massive. I'm going to put it on. It turned out massive on me. It's not blocked yet, of course. It's especially massive up here. So after I talked about this last time, you guys had lots of insight for me, which I really appreciated. This is how I keep track of my decreases. The arm actually fits me really well. It's the yoke. And I feel like, I mean, the body could be just, I think I'm having mostly the yoke. So here's what I'm going to do. So this was what I heard from the majority of you guys. I heard either, yeah, you're right, it's too big, or block it because you don't know how it's going to act once it's blocked, which is exactly true. And then the majority of you did not say this, but I had a couple of people say steek it and turn it into a jacket. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not think about that. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to finish this, like finish, what do I need to finish? Just this arm. I just need to finish this arm. So I just have a little bit of color work here on this arm to do. Like I have to pick up stitches. This is still on waste yarn. So I'll pick up stitches, finish the color work here, finish that arm, and then I think I'm going to steek it. We'll see, because first what I'm going to do is block it. That's what I'm going to do first, because it may turn out okay. I feel like this could really use some tightening up. It's way too big around my neck, like as you can see. So what I could do, there's not even that much ribbing right there. What I could do is pull all this out and then just knit up some ribbing and kind of decrease in enough that it pulls around my neck just a little bit more. But, so I'll block it. And then if I don't like it as a pullover, then I think I'll steek it and turn it into a jacket. And maybe if it's roomy enough, I think I'm going to try to maybe lightly felt it to make it like a warmish jacket, like a fall type layering jacket. I had a couple viewers who offered to buy it from me and the rest of the yarn and finish it. And I actually really considered that. But let me show you why I decided against that. So I've got plenty of the coral, I think that this is plenty to finish this arm. I'm almost positive. But I feel like this Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, that I might be playing yarn chicken with it. I mean, I won't need a lot of it for the color work, but I'm not sure. And then I'll definitely have enough of this Spud and Chloe. But that was my biggest hang up with selling it. I was like, what if I sell this and somebody pays me for it and I send them the sweater and the yarn and they don't have enough yarn to finish it? I would feel absolutely horrible. So I'm just going to hang on to it and I'm going to finish it and I'm going to see what happens. Perhaps I'll end up selling it as a finished object. I belong to a couple of slow clothing groups on Facebook where like they're natural fiber slow clothing groups. So it's clothing that people are selling that it has to be 100% natural fiber. So I could always sell it on there. You know, like I think I'll have some other options, but I'm feeling in my gut like I should finish this and kind of go through those steps and see how I feel at each step and go from there. So that's what's happening with my Rusa sweater. Yeah, I feel good about that. Let me get that off. This piece fleece is definitely a more rustic yarn, and I think it has alpaca in it. Hold on a second. Let me look at what does it have in it? No, it's the mohair. It's 75% merino and 25% mohair. That's what's, if you look, you can see, I don't know if you can see actually. Can you see all the halo? Rather large halo. Can you see that? But it's more like hair. So it is a little bit itchy feeling, but honestly, again, I'm not a very sensitive person and I can deal with the itch. And then also I feel like however I wear this, it's going to be a layering piece. So it's not going to be a big deal. But that is what I decided with this one. I think that's all that I have to share with you guys. It's like, what, 41 minutes into this episode. And did I get through, what's in here? Oh yeah, that's my summer sweater. So yeah, I got through everything. So I may decide to plug in some video of our trip to Maine at the end for those of you who are interested. I know that some of you are going to be like, we don't want to see your trip to Maine, but others of you may like to see the beautiful area that is Acadia National Park. And I think that's all. I'm wrapping it up. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this and enjoyed it, please subscribe and also give this video a thumbs up. Oh, I will be pulling a winner, randomly choosing a winner from my last episode that I did for the transitional patterns. And I will actually just reach out to that person on their comment on that video thread. So that's how I'm going, rather than announcing it here, because I think sometimes that announcement gets lost in my regular, episode. So I'll just comment on the winner's little comment underneath that video. So if you get a comment from me, you'll know that you were the giveaway winner. That is all. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.